I think it's working now.
I think so. Who we're working now?
Yeah, I later found out because I couldn't actually hear the timer either, so I thought that's weird. I then looked down and I hadn't even connected my mixing desk to my laptop.
Happens. Love it.
Oh, in the absence of Mac, this feels like another one of our conversation catch ups. Um, of course, that's not what it is. We are, in fact, live, and for the first time, everything actually, every single streaming platform has actually gone live. Unlike last time when Facebook said no. um, sorry, Meta said no. So while I bring up what we're talking about today and wake up, why why don't you Carey, tell us about you and what your own experiences with the neurodiverse community and indeed yourself as a person.
Yeah, I'm Carey Corr, and I'm a screenwriter, and I'm a movie director. I have a company called Connected Pictures, where we're making films to open people to new perspectives about everything in the world, including diversity. But they're also engaging and entertaining and all fun. And my experience with it, I'm also a member of the Octopus movement, which is for nonlinear thinkers and creatives, but there's also many neurodiverse people involved. I believe you're involved as well, right, Joe?
Yes,
Yes.
unfortunately, but I'm not a founding member because
No.
that
Oh, yeah, that's fine.
I don't have what he requires, which of course is money.
Yeah, but that's fine, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, my experience of the world may be a little bit different than most people think, but I see each person, I see past any symbols or labels, and I look at each person as a unique individual um, that has an authentic self. And when we live from there, we embrace all our stuff, whatever we are, all of it, and we live that. And so um, I don't see why there's any labels or issues, because when everyone's doing what they do, like you, then you're contributing, to the whole. And this, to me, is the only way we should all live. So having a label or putting someone in a box seems completely insane to me.
Yeah, I remember I think about a year ago I did a video about what I deal with on my YouTube channel and I think one of the things I did mention was I have more labels in the bloody supermarket, but
Yeah, right, right. But they're not you. That's what I
no,
find hilarious.
I don't, and I think it's label the constant need to label people is is probably the biggest challenge that neurodiverse people face in society. Um, I think it's the biggest challenge with that and being accepted and actually finding work and employment, and that's an entire another rabbit hole which we can jump down another time because that in itself, the employment statistics are shocking. Um,
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I agree 100%. So I don't understand why there's symbols or labels, and I don't know why those are barring people at all from contributing to the whole. Like, it makes zero sense to me. And I think that you can extend that. It's much works for neurodiverse people, you can extend that into just people who think outside the box in general, you know, like if you want to try to do something that's not in line with what is acceptable, there's a staggering amount of pushback on that for no reason, when it most of the time it's for the good of everybody, or could be.
Yeah, even in the creative sectors. So, well, your music background, music industry. Besides the fact that, again, that's a whole different. It's a whole different conversation for another time. The music industry appears to be very much broken. Although for it to be broken, it would have needed to have worked first. um,
Yeah, I love that perspective. That's pretty cool.
I don't think it's ever really worked. Um, it's only worked for money side, but it hasn't helped the artist. I mean, uh, and being neurodivergent, we are creative people. Yet well, most of us are. Some of us are ridiculously good at other things, but getting into any of these, gaming, music, all the ones which you would ideally find people like us, um, you don't know they exist because they mask themselves, because they kind of feel like they have to, because that's what apparently is now considered acceptable and normal. And when you mention that you are different, your resume gets chucked in the trash can. Not even get the interview stage.
Yeah, and I'm gonna say I've experienced that in the movie industry as well. And so it's an interesting situation when you have gatekeepers who, you know, not to label anybody, but are generally uncreative. You know, they're interested in money. They may have
Yeah.
some creative aspects around money, but in terms of what is to be made, created artistically, they don't have a sense of that. So for them to be guiding that or putting requirements on that seems counterproductive to what they're trying to do, because no piece of art, no matter what it is, a piece of music, a movie, a painting, whatever it is, no creator sets out to have a certain metric put to it, or how many dollars they're going to make, or what goes on with any of that. They're sharing a piece of themselves, or maybe their whole self,
Yeah.
to this project process, to a creative project, and that has its own merits and will find its own home to whoever it is. And not every one of those projects needs to be a blockbuster or a #1 hit or any of that. And in the same way, money can be made from that, because the artists also understand, well, what I'm doing might not resonate, so why spend $100 million on me? Let's just keep the budget down and put it out there and make money. But it's a strange world, the creative world, where there's commerce involved, because there's people who want to make money and they only know metrics. And
They do,
I don't, yeah,
and
go
they
ahead,
don't
Phil.
know autistic people. I mean, there's been a couple of films, TV shows that come out from Hollywood. Um, Ironically, not the lead character, who is meant to be autistic, is portrayed by no by someone who isn't autistic. One of the well-known ones, which Netflix did, was atypical.
Yeah.
He's not autistic, and not every single autistic person is obsessed with. I can't even remember what he was obsessed with in that show.
I think it was penguins.
Yeah, not every autistic person is obsessed with animals. I mean, I met plenty of people that run a mile just by seeing my dog, and he hasn't even done anything apart from just stare.
And this is an important point when it comes to music and movies. I firmly believe that people are only interested and resonate with stuff that they know is authentic. And then some things get marketed like a
Yeah,
blockbuster movie, which is inauthentic, but the marketing turns it over. But there's plenty of big movies and huge, I say huge bands or musicians or artists, whatever, that aren't authentic and don't make it as well. Just because the one doesn't prove that authenticity isn't the answer to it. It just proves that you know how to market one thing, and that one thing makes enough money to cover all your other bad choices that are inauthentic. Right? So it's authenticity that resonates with people, and the idea, at least for me as a screenwriter and a director, I can only make authentic characters and they're unique like every other human. So it doesn't matter what they are, they have
yeah,
their own ways of doing things because no one can be the same. We come here one off. That's it.
yep,
So if you put the label on something and then, do some research, oh, well, a lot of people on the spectrum get obsessed with animal. Well, how do you even know that? Like, how can you even figure out what all the people of anything do? That's not. It's so far from being human that it's kind of boggling to my mind. And then to create a character based on that when you don't know the experience of someone is even. I mean, that's sad, is what it is. It's really sad and unartistic in every way, in my opinion.
also an embarrassment to the entire film industry.
Yes, and to the people it's trying to represent, which is horrific because that does damage. It continues a label and a symbol that puts something on people that isn't necessarily true. And I mean, that's terrible.
I'm gonna bring up something Lewis has said. There we go. Quite right. Very true. Um, Capitalist society does want everyone to just effectively fall in line
Yeah,
and toe the
absolutely.
line.
Yeah. And then, there's this whole group of society who have amazing ideas, right? Amazing ideas and solutions to many of the problems that all of us humans are facing. And then they're marginalized over someone who wants to mask and can fit the prophet uniform, as Lewis said. I like the uniform.
Or fit the robot model.
Yeah, and I mean, how unfortunate is it for someone to be who they are, know who they are, and then be told that that of
It's
which
not
they
who they
know they
are.
are is not who they are. Exactly. I mean, if you want to talk about systematic trauma, just start right there, right? Just start right there. You're not who you are. Wait a minute. I'm the only one who knows who I am. I mean, this I'm I'm always shocked when I'm shocked when I know that it's true when it comes back that this is the truth. But it's not about being shocked. It's about making change. I mean, that's what we're
Ah,
doing here. That's what we're doing here, right?
Someone
That's what
has
you're
just
doing.
woken up, and just in time as well, because I'm running out of questions. Here comes the dictionary.
The dictionary, is it? Hey, Carey, how are you?
Good. How are you, Matt?
I'm
Nice.
good. I'm good. Apologies. Got stuck on the way back. But anyway, I am here. Finally, I thought for a second I wasn't going to make it at all. But how are we doing this evening? And has Joel been drilling you on tons of questions?
Yeah, he's keeping me in line. No, we're having a great conversation about symbols and labels and how that doesn't work with creative. It doesn't work at all. Let me put it that way. And it works even less in creative ventures.
It does indeed. Um, so I'm assuming you've already covered a bit of your background as well.
Yes.
Yes.
So I've missed all the key elements, but
You probably missed the entire day, Mac.
No, I haven't actually. I've been running around like a madman today, so that's a good thing. But Corey, I noticed you've got quite a bit of a background from film directing and screenwriting and all of those things. One of the questions I wanted to ask you is how you find things like neurodiversity fitting into that world, and do you find that neurodiverse individuals have the same opportunities that neurotypical people would?
Well, the answer is no. You might expect that in a creative venture and a venture that has many people collaborating that there would be a space for everybody, but that's not necessarily the case on a broad base. That's a broad base, that's not everything. I mean, there's some people doing work that embrace all of that and bring people in and have people play roles that are fitting because they fit that person, and in other departments of the film world and all that. But for the majority, it's not true. It's actually, maybe Joel and I were kind of discussing it. It might be the antithesis of that, because they present people in a way, and use people who are not those people, right? So if you have someone who's I don't know how to, I don't, the words aren't right. Normal, maybe, normal or typical
Neurotypical,
or
yeah.
neurotypical or whatever you want to call it, because labels and symbols don't mean much to me. But it makes no sense to have that person trying to embrace a role of someone who's neurodiverse when there's perfectly capable people. And you see this in all the diversity of Hollywood. I mean, now it's like rampant to put African American people into situations where it's not even appropriate for them. It's like a band-aid to what they, instead of telling authentic stories from those people and having them portray the people and do all that. Occasionally they do that, so it's not totally that way. But like, the band-aids are always present now, and then everyone can leave us alone, But this isn't how people live, right? Humans don't live like that. We have to face our day each day with whatever it is, right? And so, and this is, I mean, I'll reiterate what I said to Joel earlier, is uniqueness and authentic self are, in my opinion, our only value, and we should be grasping hold of that and expressing that to as much as we can. So, because this is what we're doing here, and that is the way to help everybody else, by living that way.
Absolutely, and it's interesting that it seems logical, but, but
It's logical. It's logical to us, yes, but
logic doesn't always seem to prevail, should we say? And that's one of the things that I always find so interesting, because I remember, Joel, I don't know if you recall, but going back think about a year and a half ago, when Joel first met my youngest daughter, and she got in the car. We were talking about autism, and she was telling him about a series that she had watched, and Joel was like, just shook his head, and he was like, "Yeah, it's nothing like that." And he said that there was a good series, but it wasn't played by an autistic person, and it wasn't, the a lot of it was perception of a neurotypical person's perception of a neurodiverse individual. But like you say, with all the minorities or diversity areas around the world, we keep looking at how there is this crossover, from whether it be neurotypical or whether it be a racial or religious or, all of it, it comes down to how us as human beings are dealing with, embracing somebody that's different.
Yeah, exactly. And so the symbols, if you're a manipulator of symbols, well, then you just chuck the symbol in there, or a representative of the symbol, to keep it going, right? To keep that going. And I don't know what the fear is, like, because it doesn't seem like there's much fear to be had from anybody to let someone be who they are. Like, I have a hard time understanding that. Of course, that's my maybe my quirks, right? But the thing is, what is it, and how can my view of the world threaten you? Like, how is that even possible, right? Because we all just can only experience everything through our own little perspective. That's it.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing, because we all, people judge from their own perspective, and their own experiences. Yet, I was talking to somebody yesterday about the fact, that saying of walk a mile in somebody else's shoes. And, as human beings, we're very quick to judge people that are different, because a lot of it's fear-based, because it's, I don't know how to deal with this, because it's not what I'm used to on, the norm. But everybody's norm is different. So there is no such thing as the norm. There's the norm for me and the norm for you.
Yes.
8 billion norms. 8 billion norms, right? 8 billion norms. I mean, that's it. That's it. I can't experience my life through anybody else but me.
Yeah.
The idea, if I know something for you or for Joel or for anybody, is I mean, I understand it's a hard concept, because systematically we've been raised and taught that that's not what we do. But that's exactly, in my opinion, what humans do. We only have our perspective. And for me to walk in Joel's shoes even isn't something I can do, but I can be open to allowing him his perspective fully, and embracing that, and see where it lines up with mine, where we might find some resonance, where we can come together on something that so that maybe we can all move forward. But I mean, I understand the fear, but again, it's when you're taught that you're not unique. Actually, I think maybe it's worse. You're taught that you are unique, and that's better than everybody else. Right? That's problematic in such a huge way, because nobody who comes to life in this existence while you're here has any more value than anybody else. That's just not a truth.
Well, I think that what you said there that's such important things to realize and for people to understand, is that in our own right we're all incredible human beings, who we are, but that doesn't, just because we are different doesn't make us better than somebody else. And as humans, we very seldomly connect and realize, if we look at whether it be in the entertainment industry or the corporate world, or wherever we go, there's this structure and hierarchy, and and that's a human built thing. It's whether it be in the military or anywhere we go, it's like the structure. Okay, there's the and we need structure, because structure is important, because then things, you can make things happen. but the way structure has been perceived is that, the person
way
at the
or the
top's the
highway.
most important. Yeah, well, yeah, there's a lot of the power struggle stuff going on, but there's also, the understanding of, or the acceptance of, well, that person's more important than somebody else because of who they are, what they've done. But it's like I said to Joel, when it comes to judging people, it's like judging a goldfish's ability to climb a tree, and saying, hey, well, you're just not good enough.
Yeah.
But you put that tree underwater and you have a different story. So
Yeah.
it's environments, and it's, all of us have our specialities, based on that life experience and all the stuff that gets thrown at us. So, Carey, let me ask you this question. As somebody, especially being in the entertainment world, where a lot of the time it's down to people having to depict somebody else's experience to tell a story. What are the, I guess, key opportunities that you see that, if things were different, it would open opportunities for neurodiverse individuals?
Yeah, that's a big question, but I'll take it apart as much as I can. Yeah, so the thing is, I'm now working out. So I worked in that system for a long time, but I realized at one point that system broke me down, and so I thought something was wrong with me. Well, and it took some time and some unlearning and some new learning and some support to figure out it's not me, it's the system, right? It's the system and it's not based on me or even anybody else. It's like a lottery. You get lucky. You made the one movie that that they decided to put their money behind. I mean, makes no sense, right? But then it was really hurtful to me, and it was painful, and because I realized, wow, man, I think I'm this, but then the people in control are telling me I'm not, or they're not, or they haven't given my chance yet, or I have to keep going in the system. And then, after stepping back, I realized, no, the system it doesn't work. It doesn't work for everybody, or for enough people. Maybe everybody can't make a movie. I don't know, but that's none of my business. It's like my business is trying to figure out how we can do it in a new way, so that we can open the doors and keep the gatekeepers out, and still people can make a living, but they can express themselves the way they want to. And so I found a potential way, and that's what we're doing with Connected Pictures. We're using tech, we're using other modes of revenue, other things that aren't necessarily ever included in movies, so that we'll do them for my films, but we're also open to allowing people to come on our platform and generate story around it and community. It's about community. It's about reaching out to people. It's not Hollywood has there's a dissociation with audience. Like, they have no idea, but that made no, like, when I started to figure out the system doesn't work for someone like me, because I think too far outside the box, and every time I mask myself I get close, but I don't get the payoff. And right, building your own table, I love that, Lewis. Yeah. So the thing is, yeah, we're building our own table, but the thing about it is, it's not, it's about people. The audience is as important as I am if I write and direct the film, or the star is, or the crew member, just as is the production assistant and the other person, and that no one is better than anyone else, and unnecessary in the process of a movie. You don't have a blockbuster without millions and millions of people willing to reach in their pocket and go sit in a seat.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So how can they be not considered in the process? So one of the things we're doing is building community, which is potential audience, and in advance of movies, and seeing who likes to talk about movies that can help us move forward, because that's our niche. You know, but also opening this idea to other creators so that if they want to make a horror film, fine. It may not fall under Connected Picture because we're about this other thing, but we'll give you what we have, the stuff to do it, to open that up. Then it's on you because you reach the community, you find your audience, you figure out if that audience is bigger enough in advance or whatever it is, and you can adjust what you're doing creative business wise to your creativity, or you can just make it and understand that it'll find its home. Because I don't know if any art has ever been, and even the great stuff, maybe Hollywood's a little bit of an exception, but like great songs don't come about because someone sat and wrote a song that's going to reach everybody. Like that's not how that works, right? It works the opposite way. If I love this thing enough and I send my baby out into the world, I just hope that the baby's liked. Right. I mean, that's it. And it's no different than being a human being in existence. I have kids. The kids come into the world. They're who they are. Like I can guide them. I can be a parent. I can be supportive and all that. But trying to change them or force them into something doesn't honor that their existence is unique. Yeah. So I just look at art that way. I look at the business of art that way, and for movies. And I believe that if you start with community and people all through the thing, you'll find the audience that's enough to make it all happen.
And I was thinking about this recently because in some ways everybody one of our kind of key ambitions as human beings is just to be accepted and loved for who we are. But at the same time, a lot of the times that picture gets distorted because it's almost like we want to be accepted by everybody. Mm. And the reality is it's okay not to be accepted by everybody because you need to find your community, your people, your tribe. And, as you've probably experienced in the entertainment world, there are certain people who like to work with certain individuals because they know what they're getting. They know who they are. They know that, when it comes to, production crew, when it comes to editors, etc., you know what you're getting by the quality that you've already experienced. So therefore you build your tribe and your crew and your community. So I think, one of the things that we very often forget is that it's okay not to be accepted by everybody. But understand that we need to be on that mission to find our people, our tribe. Does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense to me, and for me, that's the mission of the artists in all genres and whatever work they want to do is to be, and they have been, courageous enough to say, "This is me. I'm sharing a piece of me. Whoever likes it, great. Whoever doesn't, great too. Like this is just a piece of me, and however it's received." I mean, unfortunately for me, I was raised with the other understanding, right? So that's why maybe I had that painful moment in my work career when it just didn't go. Then I thought, oh, something's wrong with me. But nothing's further from the truth. Nothing's, and I think this goes to teaching and what we're instilling in children and adults, and it all gets around to story. For me, it's all about story. Maybe that's my perspective because I'm a storyteller, but I think it's all a bunch of stories that someone made up and that we're supposed to be a part of that story even though we don't fit in that story. And that's forced on us into a belief, whatever, and there's many of them. And it just confuses a lot of humans because they don't know where they fit in any of that, and they don't know enough because those stories have altered their intuition to something else. They don't know enough and they need to be taught that they don't need to have that who they are is what they should be seeking, not where they fit in somebody else's story.
That, I mean, exactly what you said over there is just so powerful, because if you really take some time to listen and hear that, and you realize, whether it be in the movie world or in the corporate world or whatever, wherever you find yourself, you may just find yourself in the wrong place at the wrong time, and you're not the piece of puzzle that fits over there, or they not the piece of puzzle that completes where you need to be. And it's not, taking that personally and looking at it going, wrong role. Okay, no problems. I've played my little part there. Let me move on and find something else that completes me. But the human nature to take things personally, and to look within and blame ourselves, is unfortunately such a powerful thing, and that comes through environment, because if you hear something often enough, you start believing
Right.
it.
So
That's where
I
method acting is a bit concerning sometimes.
exactly, exactly. Oh, that's too funny. Yeah, I was gonna say it's actually the not human nature. It's the antithesis of human nature. Our human nature is to really understand who we are. We know that. If you look at a 2-year-old or a 3-year-old, they don't get in line to do what they're supposed to do, what anyone's telling them to do, whether it's a parent or
Yeah,
what.
that's learned behavior. Yeah.
Right, it's just learned behavior to feel bad about yourself for not fitting into a group that doesn't want you in the first place. Like these kinds of things make no sense, and it's worse for people who get symbols and labels attached to them, right? Because I mean, then they don't even have any home, because they may be alone in their family as someone who's, pick a label, doesn't matter what it is, and then that family even can't comprehend it. They're trying maybe to be their best and to be accepting, but they can't, because we can't really walk in someone else's shoes, but we can be open to them being who they are. We can accept the ideas that they have, that the way they react to us and all that. We can do all that, but it seems really difficult for a lot of people who have a label on them to be able to do that in this world, and it's a shame.
It, I find it. I mean, it's quite uh, a topic that for a long time I struggled with as well, and I keep asking. Joel and I have asked this question to many people about, early diagnosis as an example, like whether, because that's one of the biggest challenges we find, is a lot of adults being diagnosed in their mid 30s, 40s, 50s, not because they've gone to seek advice, but because they've taken their children for advice and they go, hold on, but I do that. And then they realize that it's something that's become either inherited or something that's passed on, or, and all of a sudden they go, so I have ADHD, or I have autism, or and the sad thing is, the moment you put a label on, people historically have always treated people different. I mean, they've been, if you go back 50, 60, 70 years, people were put in asylums for being different, just because somebody couldn't understand them. And now we're a lot more open to learning. But like you said, those labels have created judgment from a lot of people. But at the same time, I kind of look at it and I think, do we at least need to know some guidance? As Joel says, it's just different programming. But if I know that, as an example, it's like a language thing. If I know that if I'm trying to speak to you, but you're not responding and we're getting frustrated trying to communicate, and then I find out, okay, you actually speak French, or you speak Spanish, or it's like, okay, now we can communicate because we understand we need a translator, or we just need to speak a different language. And that's the part where, diagnoses helps, but it needs to. I mean, what are your thoughts on that, especially
Well,
early diagnosis?
yeah, I mean, my thoughts on any diagnosis are, one, science is a weird zone when it crosses over into the world, because what we knew a short time ago suddenly is not scientifically true anymore in a lot of areas. And a lot of what is behaviorally diagnosed, I'll say, because that's the only marker maybe, or whatever they're looking for. I mean, that's someone's perspective, and who wrote the book, and what fits that, and how does that, and so when you put that label that's a blanket on somebody, especially when they're young, it immediately tells them that their uniqueness is not unique. It's uniquely inherent in this one subset of people, right? And so that can be problematic to me, in my opinion, and that yeah.
Yeah, I think I agree. It all depends on how it is handled, how it is dealt with, and how you what's the word how you take that information and what you do with it. So I look at my two children, very, very different. My youngest one, we didn't want to get diagnosed, we didn't want to give her a label, and then much later on we found we were doing a bit of a disservice because we were struggling to get the right help for her. And once we got we finally went and said, okay, let's go through this process. Let's go and find out a little bit more. What do the doctors say? What are the, and it came back and we found out, okay, ADHD is there. And then we could understand that just her behaviors and her programming is a little bit different, but then it's going to research and understand, okay, how do we enable her environment? Because what was happening, and as you were, you correctly put, in the schooling system, she had a label, so therefore she was the problem child and discarded from classroom and bullied and all those kind of things. So in the right information in the right hands is great, but in the wrong hands, and unfortunately most people are laymen when it comes to these things. They don't understand the true. If you look at autism as an example, one of the most misunderstood diagnoses, because one person with autism isn't the same as another person with autism. Yeah, exactly. I mean, Joel, how many times have people come to you with with an assumption of what you must be like because you have autism?
Too many times. And also my personal favorite is mixing that up with I don't know if I'm allowed to say it anymore.
Ooh, okay, yeah. Trying to be politically correct.
The word begin with R.
Yes, I know what you are referring to. That used to be a standard kind of reference to people that were different. And it's amazing how the names for different things, as Carey was saying, has changed over the years. As we become a bit more educated, but even though we are more educated, a lot of people still don't have a clue when it comes. I mean, autism is such a wide spectrum that to go and say, okay, so I need to treat, because you have autism, I need to treat you this way. And one of the golden pieces of advice that Joel gave us, a few years ago when we were on one of these talk shows was, well, don't assume how you need to treat me. Why don't you just ask me? And it's like,
that's what I was going to say. Like, why is it so difficult for a child to show up in school and a teacher to say, who are you? Right? What do you like to do? What don't you like to do? What, I mean, this can be 10 minutes, maybe it takes 6 weeks, but you understand what each kid is. And that's for every kid, whether they're neurodivergent or just kids, atypical, whatever it is. I mean, atypical, I meant neurotypical kids. That I was thinking of that show. But the thing is, we're people, right? So systematically, when you start symbols and labels and diagnoses, which are I agree with you, Mac, 100%. They can be helpful, but it depends on who's giving it, who's giving you the furthering information, and how the person themselves, the person, is understanding or being taught what it actually means. Right? So I mean, that part of it is so important. And again, for me, science sometimes tells us they know stuff. They know it, they know it. We know how the brain works. I mean, it's the most complicated thing on earth, and they're approximating. And most of the good scientists will say, well, we think it works like this because we put electrodes on it and some area fires up and we see it on some computer screen and it, whatever it is. But how can you even understand that when the power of the human brain and its complexity is so beyond what we can comprehend or scientifically now? Like, explain my imagination, why I can think of a world that's way out of there and then somehow get it onto paper and then want to make a movie about it. Like, when you can't explain these things, it seems to me you shouldn't be telling people what they should do, but you should be looking to support from what you know at this time.
Yeah, and I think the world that we're in, if we look at, and we were talking about this in recent conversations about the what do you call it, education system as an example. Now in the UK, the average teacher gets less than 1 day's training on neurodiversity in a year, which is hardly anything. So then they are entrusted to be able to, as you say, go and treat and look after that child during their schooling, when it's like giving somebody that's done a first aid course a chance to do open heart surgery. And it's like, what are we doing here? And the average child spends 10 to 16, sometimes 20 years in an education system. And throughout that period, a lot of them complete that period and still don't have a clue who they are, where they fit in, what they want to do. And like you say, how hard is it to ask the question of what interests you? Who are you? But post World War II, education was, we need to put people into a system, and it's a conveyor belt system. We need to mass produce. Very little room for creativity or people that don't fit. If you don't fit in, get out. So it's down to the people like yourselves, the creatives, that are able to allow that story to be told a lot more accurately, if that makes sense at all.
Yeah, totally makes sense. Complete sense to me. Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is, we as humanity have come to the point where we are more open to things. I'll grant that, but also we're not fully embracing that each person is a unique individual and that there's not metrics for who is what, who's intelligent, what is intelligence, and how do you define that? I mean, there's 5 or 6 of them now that are floating around that are symbols: emotional intelligence, IQ, whatever, right? What all that's telling me isn't that those things are not valid. It's telling me that we all have different strengths for humanity. Different strengths, no matter who we are. And those different strengths make this puzzle piece whole. But we're keeping the puzzle in a bunch of pieces by labeling and not teaching people that they are a piece of the puzzle that is exactly needed for all that there is. And
Yeah.
I mean, I understand it. I understand the systems. I get it, like the World War II and the making people work from factories and learning how to sit still for 12 hours a day or whatever they're doing in schools to these kids, right? Like these insane amounts. I sometimes I think to myself, I look back and I say, wow. And I did it, and I put my kids in it, and I'm like, they had me sitting there for 5 to 6 hours a day. The second I get home, I'm running around. Like, who even thinks of doing something like that, and what to what end? Like, and what does it take away from the kids? Like, I love when I talk to Joel. It's fantastic because he is who he is, right? And so whatever he says to me, I totally get in a way that I didn't see it from my perspective. Now that is where we go in the world as humans. We need to go there. We need to understand. We stop putting these blankets around on people, what no matter what they are, and figure out how we can all come together to do stuff together and use each other's strengths. If and this is one of my lessons I learned from Hollywood, because ego, I never was driven a lot by ego, but I found out I was less than the people I worked with, but I still was. And I understood, how can someone be considered better than somebody? Why is there a movie director screaming at a production assistant because something's not going right, or they didn't bring their coffee, or what? I mean, that's the most inane part of it. But even if it was like something happened that was important for the movie, why are you screaming? Like, why is there some, do you think, I'm talking about the person, the director, why do you think you're so much better, that like you're the important part? And you're not doing brain surgery, by the way, you're making a movie. Like, so like none of this stuff is that important. If the movie goes out and is a total bomb, who cares? Like, nobody lost their life, right? Like, I mean, so I was in a lot of situations with people who, it was like they're standing above me, and I'm thinking to myself, why is my agent thinking he's better than I am, like the most important cog? Like, isn't he selling my creativity? Like, so, but you're in it and you don't see it. And I think most of the world, we're kind of caught in that. It doesn't matter what world you're in, like whether it's movies or whatever, it's all the same. What are we putting kids through school like that? Why aren't they doing classrooms outside? It can't be that difficult.
Well, this is, if you look at it from a global perspective, and I've seen over the last 20 years different education systems being tested in different countries, and seeing how things are being driven, and people asking those same questions, and then doing something differently. And I think that's the opportunity we have, is to think about pushing those boundaries and having a bit more fun, and allowing people to think about it. Have we lost Carey there? I'm just.
I don't know what's happening. I froze, I think. Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but for a second, it's all good. But it definitely is time to kind of break the mold, as it were.
Yeah, I agree.
And Carey, before we, I just realized the time, but before we wrap up, I mean, hey, shows you how quickly a conversation goes, eh?
Mm-hmm.
But with Connected Pictures, I mean, what's the vision there? What is it that you would like to achieve through what you're doing now?
Well, Connected Pictures' vision is to make movies. Oh, still here, or did I lose you guys?
We can hear you.
Okay. There we go. Something's happening on my screen. Okay, so Connected Pictures is about creating movies that open people to new perspectives of who we are as humans. That's the creative part, or part of the creative part. We're also a community platform, bringing people together to talk about this stuff and the importance of stories, and how we use stories, art, and whatever, music, to move humanity forward past these labels and all these things we've been spending an hour talking about, because they're the problems, right? And so, and then we're also there so other creatives can get in line with this movie business model, so that they don't have to have a gatekeeper tell them what they have to do. They don't have to fit in, and further, just with my movies, it's also to create movies in a different mode of the creation, in terms of devoid of egos, everybody on the set equal to everybody in all facets of the movie, whether it's the business side of it or everyone just using their strengths, their uniqueness, to make this thing as good as it can and reach as many people that might want to see it. And so that's what we're building, and that's what it's all about. And it's pretty simple, to be honest, and I'm surprised that other people haven't done it. I mean, some of the technology we're using with my partner Ahmed is new and innovative in the retail fintech stuff, and it changes things. It makes it social commerce. It's a different model. So that's also a unique part. But real, in essence, it's I don't know how to say it other than that's actually, for me, how art and the art of living should be,
It's interesting. I mean, like you say, it's not rocket science, but it's
it depends if you're actually in that profession. It might be
well, if you
science.
if that's your field, I guess that it is rocket science. I have had that mistake once by saying somebody, "Oh, you're not a rocket scientist," and actually he turned around and showed me his qualification, and I was like, never mind. But when it comes to most organizations, whether it be business or whether it be the movie industry or the music industry, any part of our lives, a lot of the biggest part that's missing is the basic humanity element. It's just knowing that each one of us, as you were saying there, Carey, and I love that, is the perfect piece to the puzzle to complete the bigger picture. But there's been so much brainwashing over the years of trying to fill something else, be somebody who you're not, and we're missing out on a lot of great human beings being just their perfect selves.
Absolutely. And I just want to turn this to Joel, because Joel will tell you this, right? You play with another musician, you're co-creating. No one's above anyone else. Maybe someone takes the lead and has written the song or whatever, but without all the parts co-creating at their ultimate level, you don't make something sound good. It just doesn't happen. And it's that can go across every single thing that humans do. This isn't just a creative zone. This is literally every single thing we do. I mean, I think that humans are just creators. Everything that we have now has been created. So in a sense, we have to really think about co-creation as a way of living.
Absolutely.
It is 4 minutes past, and you're.
It is, but I just wanted to say, Carey.
You can continue talking if you want to. Yeah.
No, we do need to wrap up. But Carey, I just wanted to say I'm excited about the vision that you have there, and what you're doing, and we'd love to carry on having conversations with you, and seeing where a conversation may lead, and hearing about how you're making a difference. As well as continuing the conversations, just about bringing that little bit of human element back into the world, and allowing people to just thrive being who they are. Some exciting times ahead.
Exactly. Thank you both. I feel exactly the same way, and I'll continue conversing with you both.
Indeed. Excellent stuff. Well, thank you so much for your time. Please do go and connect with Carey. He is on LinkedIn.
He is on
make
LinkedIn,
sure...
even though you can't see him, he is there. He's just on a disciplinary actor right now.
It's okay. We'll help him out with that. We'll make sure that we get that fixed. That is my speciality after all. Carey, thank you so much for spending the evening chatting with us, or the afternoon. Where about are you based again?
I'm
You
near
in
LA.
California?
Yeah, near LA.
Are you experiencing some of this crazy weather shifts that they've been showing us in the news here?
Not so much. We're warmer than usual, but not. We don't have it really bad. That's more like the middle of the southern part of the country,
You
Texas
see,
and
it's
places.
normal there. It's not normal here.
Yeah, exactly.
Indeed. Awesome stuff. Well, thank you so
Yeah,
much. And Joel, thank you for putting this together as always. You
You're
are a
very
gold star
welcome.
and a rock star. Literally.
yep.
I shall
Thank you,
speak to
guys.
you later on, Mac. Have a good, and thank you everyone for coming, and we'll see you in the next one.
Yeah. Bye.